Breaking news from Capitol Hill, where just moments ago the House cleared the way for a final vote on foreign aid bills from Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. And it comes as Speaker Johnson is facing threats from his own party to remove him as Speaker. Joining us now, two people who have worked for House Speakers, Brendan Buck, former press secretary to John Boehner, and Paul Ryan. He is also an MSNBC political analyst, and Ashley Etienne, former communications director for Vice President Harris, and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. So, Brendan, the House Freedom Caucus met last night, raised concerns about removing Johnson from the speakership during an election year. If he is ousted, what challenges could this create for Republicans?
Well, I think Republicans, even including in the Freedom Caucus, don't see a whole lot of political value in going through the disaster that happened on the floor last year when we were stuck and couldn't do anything for 3 weeks. Now, there is a small minority of the House who doesn't seem to get the bad politics, doesn't seem to get that they don't actually gain anything from changing the speaker, and seem intent on forcing this issue. I think they are going to lose this fight, and it could actually be really good for the House if Democrats work with the overwhelming number of Republicans to defeat the motion to vacate and take away this weapon from the Freedom Caucus, where we don't have to worry about them quite so much. I don't know how long that dynamic will be able to last, but at least in the short term, I think it'll be really good for governance in the House.
How would that happen? I mean, what would have to happen for that to be removed?
Well, I don't think the motion to vacate is going away, but Democrats have said that if the context for a motion to vacate coming up is Speaker Johnson brings up Ukraine aid, as he's doing, they're not going to help Marjorie Taylor Greene and a handful of Republicans kick him out. So if all of those Democrats stand with the overwhelming number of Republicans and defeat Marjorie Taylor's move to remove him, that threat is no longer hanging over Mike Johnson. He can govern the way that he wants to, so long as he doesn't alienate those Democrats. And if she comes at him again, whether or not they'll be there the second time around.
Yeah, Ashley, I mean, Democrats considering helping Johnson to save his job. Why would they do this?
Well, here's the thing. You know, Democrats have a history and a pattern of prioritizing the country's needs and the needs of our allies ahead of the GOP shenanigan. Brendan can attest to this. I worked for Speaker Pelosi, and there were times when she had to bail out Speaker Boehner when he found himself in a tight spot. But the country was on the line, and Democrats will always choose, as she did, to put the country ahead of the politics. But here's what I'm watching. You know, none of this is free. Nothing is free. So the question for me is, what is Jeffries going to get for this deal and for his votes? But secondly, I'm really watching to see whether or not Trump's going to be able to marginalize Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is going to be a test to see if he can actually do that. You know, his team has said publicly that a speakership fight would be a distraction, one for the party, but also one that Trump actually doesn't need. So coming out of this, it's going to be really curious to see how the GOP respond to Marjorie Taylor Greene, whether or not former President Trump steps in to sort of shut her down in her efforts to ignite a speakership fight.
And Ashley, what were the secrets to Speaker Pelosi being able to be as effective as she was?
Well, I mean, you know, there's some fundamentals to the game, and she's mastered all the fundamentals. And, you know, one of the major ones is really knowing your caucus, how to strike a deal, knowing when to take a deal and when to walk away from a deal. Part of the problem with Johnson is he let this whole debate drag on too long, and to the point at which, you know, our allies have suffered. And American stature in the world has also taken a hit. And so he had no other choice at this point. And when you find yourself in that type of a position, you find yourself giving away more than what you really want to. And that's probably what he's going to have to do with Jeffries. So why I think that Speaker Pelosi was so effective is she knew how to counter vote. She knew how to get a deal. And she also was able to contain the far left in her party in a way that Republicans have not. And then, you know, Brendan will attest to this or speak to this, but, you know, the rules of their conference is very different than the rules of the Democratic caucus, which sort of puts their speaker in a very weak position.
And I mean, Brendan, Boehner and Ryan both had the possibility of, for example, carrying out comprehensive immigration negotiations that were going on in the House, and they couldn't because of those elements in their caucus that simply wouldn't have let that happen.
That's right. There's a group in the conference who always believes that if you just fight harder, you can get something more conservative. And what ends up happening is they marginalize themselves. We end up having to write them off because there's never anything that they can be for. And policies typically end up moving further to the left. That's what happened with the debt limit agreement. That's what happened with most spending bills. Time and time again, when they dig in and insist on things that they know are not realistic, the result is things become less conservative. So they've undermined themselves every step of the way. And they might actually have been the biggest way here, taking away that tool that Ashley talked about. That tool to take out the speaker has hung around the neck of every speaker for a number of years now on the Republican side. And if it gets defeated, maybe the dynamics will change in the House for a while. We don't have to worry about Marjorie Taylor Greene quite so much.
Ashley Etienne and Brendan Buck, thank you both so very much.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.